scams involving cryptocurrency, social media apps, and marketing tactics designed to play on emotions made NASAA's 2025 annual list of top investor threats. In today's special episode of Real Life Regulators, we are joined by Amanda Senn, Director of the Alabama Securities Commission, and she also serves as NASAA's Enforcement Section Chair. She will share how to detect, protect, and report these scams, and hopefully, after listening to this episode, you will be able to avoid these threats. Hello and welcome to Real Life Regulators. This podcast is brought to you by the North American Securities Administrators Association, also known as NASAA. This podcast was created to educate investors using real-life examples of security fraud cases. During each episode, we typically review different cases and discuss what went wrong, how you can identify the red flags of securities fraud, and what you can do in the future to protect yourself and your loved ones from a similar situation. Today's special episode will focus on NASAA's top investor threats for 2025. We will cover each threat and let you know how to detect, protect, and report each threat. I'm one of your co-hosts, Nick Vonderud, the Education and Public Affairs Manager for the Alabama Securities Commission, and my co-host today is Lynn Peters, Director of Communications, Financial Education, and Outreach with the Washington State Department of Financial Institutions.
And today we are joined by Amanda Senn, Director of the Alabama Securities Commission. She also serves as the current chair for the NASAA Enforcement Section Committee. Before we begin, Amanda, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do in your role at the Alabama Securities Commission and NASAA?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Senn. I serve as Director of the Alabama Securities Commission, and in each state there is a securities office. And so our offices are responsible for overseeing the investment industry within the state. We do that by licensing the firms and the individuals that are involved in the securities industry, and also by ensuring that these firms and individuals aren't engaging in fraudulent practices. And by and large, most of your licensed professionals are great professionals. They're not engaged in fraud. But much of the activity that we see on the fraudulent side is conducted by unregistered agents, and the activity is not licensed or in any way sanctioned by the government. With our national association, I serve as enforcement chair, and that sort of provides an opportunity for the states to come together if we notice systemic issues. For example, if we saw an individual maybe starting a fraud in one state and then he ran over to another and collected investor victims from across the United States, we would come together in the enforcement section and bring action against this person swiftly and united. We also look at broker-dealer practices, though not very often. Like I said, our regulated industry is by and large pretty good, but sometimes we need to look out for a retail investor and are studying their practices and paying attention. And so by talking with our sister states, we're able to collect information from across the United States to ensure that all retail investors are protected and that there are safeguards in place to be sure that their financial wealth is being built in a safe manner, and then they can keep that for years to come.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for what you do to protect investors. Before we dive into this list, can you explain how this list was compiled?
So through the association that I mentioned, NASAA, not to be confused with the space program, we study trends, and through the enforcement section, because we are talking regularly, for example, I may pick up the phone and call the state of Washington and ask them a question about, what they're seeing in that state, or if they've seen this individual or this type scheme or product, or I could pick up the phone and call New York and ask the same question. But because we're always talking, we also tend to study the frauds within our jurisdictions. And we even talk with our Canadian counterparts and down in Mexico as well. So every year we send out a survey to all 50 states and Canada and Mexico to determine or to gauge, the types of activity that's being conducted when they're within their borders as well. We want to know if these frauds are systemic or if these business practices are systemic. So we do that through an enforcement report. And every year we collect information about the frauds all the files that are crossing our desk, and put it together in a report so that investors across the country can know, what's going on, because with artificial intelligence, it's so hard to tell what's real and what's not. And so by providing this information to the investing public, we hope that we can deter a lot of this conduct. Because as many of us know, and I'm sure some of you have witnessed, once money is handed over into the hands of fraudsters, the chances of recovery are slim to none. So these enforcement statistics are critically important to let investors know what to be aware of every year.
And for this year, for 2025, the most critical threats include financial scams tied to digital assets and cryptocurrency, social media, and marketing tactics designed to play on emotions. Today, we're going to dive into each one of these scams. But first, let's talk about financial scams tied to digital assets and cryptocurrency. I think a lot of people are confused about what crypto is. Can you explain what digital assets and cryptocurrencies are?
Sure. So digital assets are merely that. They're assets that are created by a computer. So many years ago, about 10 years ago, some may recall Mt. Gox. That was one of the earliest exchanges that involved crypto type assets. But that was sort of the first, red flag for us as regulators to start paying attention to these digital assets. Years ago, somebody, and I don't think the identity has been confirmed, developed an algorithm to allow people that are computer savvy to go in and attempt to crack a code or solve a computer puzzle that would reward them with Bitcoin. And since the creation of Bitcoin, there have been several other cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin is not the only one. So there are thousands and thousands of different cryptocurrencies, and people who are computer savvy can create their own cryptocurrency using a computer code per se. The technology that underlies the creation of these digital entries or these computer created assets, and I use the term assets loosely, and I'll explain that in a minute, is the blockchain. And so blockchain technology is not synonymous with crypto. It shouldn't be confused for cryptocurrency. Blockchain technology is an electronic record keeping device that allows cryptocurrencies and other digitally created assets, including non-fungible tokens, which is another one, to be recorded and transacted, transferred, and authenticated. So the blockchain will allow you to create, in the instance of Bitcoin, if you mine, quote mine, or solve the computer algorithm or the computer game that rewards you Bitcoin, it is then displayed on the blockchain and recorded in perpetuity. But just imagine an electronic ledger, and the cryptocurrencies are just digital entries that reflect a different type of computer generated asset, quote. I use the term asset loosely because cryptocurrency fluctuates, and it's really only worth what people are putting into the cryptocurrencies. So you can see right now at the time of this recording that Bitcoin is very high in value because people are reading about it, they're excited, and they are, quote, investing in Bitcoin. You can take US dollars and convert it into cryptocurrency fairly easily now through a number of different ways. A few crypto firms, Bitcoin ATMs will allow you to do that. And so people are getting into cryptocurrency, and that's driving up the value of these individual cryptocurrencies, mainly Bitcoin, which is the one that I'll continue to focus on. So cryptocurrency is merely a digitally created asset, and blockchain is the underlying technology that allows you to transact and transfer cryptocurrencies.
Well, cryptocurrency has certainly been a hot topic as of late, but cryptocurrency has been on NASA's radar for quite some time. NASA actually published an investor alert about virtual currency back in April of 2014. So the name has changed, but the gist is just the same. How has cryptocurrency fraud evolved since 2014, in your opinion?
Well, with every asset, fraudsters exploit it. And with every new technology or current headline, whatever's on the front page of the newspaper, a fraudster can rip off and fabricate and devise their own schemes. So cryptocurrency is very attractive to fraudsters because you can create it anonymously and you can transfer money anonymously through cryptocurrency. It's much easier to get money out, US dollars, into a cryptocurrency and then quickly transfer it to digital wallets, which are the online and electronic version of a paper wallet. You can easily create a digital wallet with a specific identifying number, and fraudsters are doing this, and there's multiple wallets and you could close them quickly and open another. And so fraudsters love cryptocurrency because they can easily put assets in, hide them, conceal them, launder them, swap them around for different cryptocurrencies. And many of these frauds are conducted by fraudsters overseas and using foreign exchanges. So there are different reasons why cryptocurrency is attracted to fraudsters, but because of the anonymity and the traceability factor, which is it's more difficult to trace cryptocurrencies than it is money that is being transacted through our electronic payment system. So we see fraudsters using cryptocurrency for dark market transactions, for ransom payments, and cyber hacks. And we see it in investment fraud. Certainly, that's our area, and drug trafficking and just different types of crimes because of its unique capabilities to hide, conceal, and transfer.
So there's a lot of ways why it's attractive to the scammers, but why do you think so many investors fall for the crypto scam?
People are reading about crypto on the news every day, and they're seeing everybody make money off cryptocurrency. So of course investors want a piece of that, especially when the stock market begins to drop. Fraudsters, they do this, and they have for centuries taken advantage of stock market fluctuations or changes in the economy to frighten investors into another type of investment or an alternative source of providing funds or funding. And so if you just turn on the news and you see, cryptos on nearly every news station and economic forecast and update, investors don't want to miss out. And they're concerned that with the global economy sort of, in flux right now, with the different national efforts being made to ensure that, our country maintains a strong position, they're concerned that leaving money in the stock market is just not enough, or the bond market. And so they are very interested in getting involved in cryptocurrency and making the money that everyone else seems to be making, that they're reading about and seeing on television.
And you had mentioned earlier that there's thousands of cryptocurrency companies out there. How can someone tell if they're investing in a legitimate cryptocurrency company?
Yeah, there's thousands of cryptocurrencies created. I'd say in the States, during the course of investigations and different crypto activities, we've seen dozens and dozens of crypto companies, but hundreds of fraudulent crypto companies. So fraudsters are creating these fake websites now. One of the schemes that we see regularly that involve a fake crypto website is the pig butchering scheme, which it falls in line with one of our top investor threats. But fraudsters can easily create these fake crypto websites. The problem is with broker dealers or with a bank, if an investor or a customer wants to verify the legitimacy of a financial advisor or a firm, or just say, hey, I want to contact this guy who a friend of mine provided me a business card for a guy. He works at Charles Schwab. They can pick up the phone and they can call your state regulator and say, hey, can you check out this guy and his firm, his brokerage firm or his advisory firm? And the state regulator can say, sure, let me pull the license. He is in fact licensed. Here is his address. Here's his phone number. Let's confirm that. With crypto right now, because of the lack of concrete controls and framework and the lack of a licensing scheme per se. Now, some of these companies do have money transmitters license, but overall, there's not a licensing scheme so that people can call and say, you know what, I'd like to invest in crypto, but I'm not so sure about this company. Can you verify its website? Can you verify that it's been vetted, that has some sort of, base in legitimacy. I mean, are you guys aware of this company, and does it pass the minimum threshold to be able to operate and take my, hard-earned dollars? So hopefully a licensing scheme will come out soon. But right now, if you're investing in a crypto platform, be aware there are significant risks, and regulators cannot confirm whether a platform is legitimate or not.
For best practices before you invest, would it be a good idea for the investors to contact their local securities agency just to check it out before they invest?
That is the best idea. Yes, an investor should always contact their state securities regulator if they have questions. Now, they can't provide investment advice. I wish we could give you all the get-rich-quick tips. We would be rich ourselves. But what we can do is confirm that the individuals that you are working with to help you build your wealth or to save are licensed. That means they have minimum credentials. They have a certain amount of knowledge to be able to responsibly manage your money, and also to confirm that the businesses where they work, the investment advisors and the broker dealers, are licensed to be able to custody your money and trade it. And they also have minimal capital requirements, so they're not insolvent, and that the individuals that work for them aren't, haven't been convicted of felony embezzlement charges or theft charges. So they're people that are trustworthy and professional and are responsible enough to be able to manage the money that you've worked so hard to earn. So if you ever have questions, always call your state securities regulator. If they cannot provide you the answer because of the subject matter, the nature of it, they will help get you to the right person. But always verify before you invest.
And on that topic, you'd mentioned that there's a lack of regulatory structure around cryptocurrency. How are consumers going to determine what a red flag is when it comes to crypto investment fraud?
I think any stranger asking you for payment in cryptocurrency is a huge red flag. If they're asking you, whether it's through a text message, a phone call, an email, or a social messaging platform, to make any payment or any investment through cryptocurrency, run, hang up the phone, log off your computer. So, requests for payments in crypto is a huge red flag. And I caution any investor, if they want to get involved in crypto, there are ways to do that as a novice or somebody who's not an expert in cryptocurrency investing, because some of our brokerage firms are now offering exchange traded funds that diversify their funds and include cryptocurrency. So if you want to invest in crypto, there are ways to do it through a licensed broker dealer. And that's important. Always go through a licensed firm.
And speaking of crypto payments, crypto ATMs are popping up everywhere. What do people need to know about crypto ATMs before putting their hard-earned money into one?
If people are going to a crypto ATM, they are likely a victim of a fraud. Bitcoin ATMs allow users to convert cash into cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, if it's a Bitcoin ATM. And so many of the frauds that we're seeing in our offices involve victims being directed to a Bitcoin ATM in order to convert and conceal the funds that are being stolen from them by a fraudster. So people beware. If the Bitcoin ATM comes up during the course of the conversation and somebody's asking you to go make a payment through a Bitcoin ATM, run and call your state regulator.
And on that note, if somebody thinks they might be a victim of cryptocurrency fraud, what should they be doing?
If you think you've become a victim of a crypto fraud, contact your state securities regulator. If you've, it just depends on where you are in the transaction. Just to say, maybe you just initiated a wire and realized, later that day, oh goodness, maybe this may be a fraud. Contact your bank or financial institution immediately to see if they can withdraw that wire or freeze it. Sometimes there are opportunities there. Contact your state securities office. We can help you with that. If you think, a week later, you realize, oh my goodness, this may have been a fraud, and maybe it's through a website of sorts, call us. You can call your local law enforcement as well. But cryptocurrency cases have a certain level of sophistication in that they require expensive software to be able to trace it. So occasionally, and we have been very fortunate in Alabama, to have recently seized some money in a digital wallet that was a part of a crypto fraud, but rarely does that happen because it moves so quickly and it's mixed up in different online or electronic wallets so quickly. But if you think you've fallen victim to a crypto fraud, call law enforcement, call your local securities regulator.
So the next one is scams targeting investors through social media platforms, which seems kind of odd with some folks. It seems like a much younger generation, but you're seeing a lot of older folks working on social media as well. And it's become a really powerful form of communication for people across all age demographics. Can you explain the different types of social media and how they're being used?
So we see, let's say, a third of the cases that come in from financial institutions reporting suspected fraud involve social media or mobile apps. Like WhatsApp is a popular one, Bumble, on Facebook Messenger. Fraudsters are contacting victims through Facebook Messenger, Instagram, these types of social media. We can look back through our reports, but any online or mobile application that provides a messaging feature, beware. If you're developing a relationship with someone online, period, and they're asking you for money, run. Most of the victims that we see here have, they've developed relationships of trust, and that's so critically important to these fraudsters. And nobody wants to discourage trust. We don't want people walking around, distrustful of everybody they come in contact with. But if individuals are asking you for money through that relationship that they've cultivated and they've wormed their way into your confidences, run. It's a red flag. But there's so many different types of social media platforms now, and I know new ones are coming up every day, and some of them will allow you to conceal your text messages. But a lot of fraudsters will take victims from a very public application and then ask them to do a WhatsApp or a Snapchat or something that disappears pretty quickly, obviously, because that person wants to hide the evidence and further conceal his or her identity. So anonymity is such a huge part of these crimes, and it's so easy for them to perpetrate crimes through the internet and through social media sites. But we're seeing, like you said, they run the gamut. Some of our younger investors are falling victim to these scams, and we're seeing a lot of the fraudsters prey and target older investors that have suffered some cognitive decline as well, or just are living alone, socially isolated, and fraudsters use fear tactics to get them to turn over their life savings.
And how are you seeing fraudsters implement artificial intelligence to enhance these social media scams?
Gosh, the combination of the two is like a perfect storm for fraud. With artificial intelligence, fraudsters can now create voices of your friends and family and of government officials. They can replicate and duplicate anything they want that exists in real life. And so now, not only do you have, the traditional red flags that it used to be in person, you'd run into a fraudster and that person just kind of looked like a shyster. It just didn't, something that he said was wrong, or you could tell by his mannerisms that he may be a fraudster, or just from being in the community, people knew things about this person. Well, now with the internet and the anonymity, and add artificial intelligence, which allows that person to have all the tools in the world to create this perfectly legitimate fraud, it's very difficult to operate and conduct business online without running into a fraudster on a website or through a social media app or for a phone call. For example, bill collectors. So all of us have a payment, whether it's to a utility company, a mortgage, an auto payment, insurance, any type of payment that's owed for services. Fraudsters are they're able to learn, because there's so many different data breaches and cyber incidents, because we put our entire lives online. So just think about how many websites you open where you store your name, address, phone number, credit card information. So a lot of that's available on the dark web, and a lot of it's available publicly. So fraudsters can get access to this and create a text message or an email that says, hey, you were at such and such hospital last week, you have a bill due. And it looks so real because that is the way that service providers and retailers are now contacting us. We get bills electronically. We get notifications about our bank account. We get notifications about bills due. And so fraudsters know that. And with AI, they can pull all this information that's publicly available and on the dark web, package it together and come up with this perfect little device to get you to lose your money. And,
so how would a consumer know that that's what they're being approached with? What are the signs that they would be able to determine it's AI?
So in so many ways, it's hard to tell just from looking at a text message or receiving a voicemail from someone who it sounds like your loved one, but they're saying something weird. So sometimes you can just tell from the nature of the email or the text or the voice message that this may be fraud because it just doesn't sound right. Otherwise, we encourage everyone to pick up the phone and call that retailer directly. Always do that. If it's somebody, a business purporting to ask you for money, if it's a toll violation that a text message, you think, well, maybe I did go through a toll bridge. I just didn't know it. Or maybe I do owe $60 to the Secretary of State for a uniform filing that I made last year. Who knows? Always pick up the phone and call that business directly. And that's really the only way to know whether you have a legitimate outstanding balance or whether you owe money to someone or whether you are going to get called up for court legitimately. But it's hard to tell on its face whether it's an artificial intelligence generated, text message or fabricated by a fraudster.
And what are some of the common ways people are harmed?
So the different types of threats that we're seeing.
Or like emotionally, financially.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, so many of these frauds now outside of the regular, bill collection type scams or IRS scams involve a relationship of trust. And so when you have a relationship of trust and a breach of that trust, the emotional impact is devastating. So not only do you have financial loss, but an emotional effect on the victim. And we've seen victims that have said, you know what, I wish I had just been assaulted or pushed down and they'd robbed me, they'd taken my purse, rather than to have experienced this, relationship, the devastation that came as a result of it. For some of our senior investors, they've suffered physical, consequences as a result of it because it takes a toll. Emotional loss, emotional manipulation, and somebody that goes through that, especially after a long-term type relationship online, can be devastating. But the financial losses, especially for our senior investors, it's hard for them to go back into the workforce, many of them, and some of them can't, to recover these losses. So all around, fraud just has so many devastating consequences.
How are investment scams tied into these social media scams?
For many of the investment scams, especially now, and securities regulators are the ones that are telling folks, hey, you need to build wealth, make sure you're saving and investing, and we teach that. And now there are in many states financial literacy requirements in schools, so people are learning and they're telling themselves, I need to build wealth, I need to secure my financial future through investing. And fraudsters know that, and they think, okay, well, let me use this to my advantage. I can help you build wealth. I can help you invest in this or invest in that. And the types of products we see now run the gamut. There's so many different, unique, and complex products, investment type products. I mean, you see stock market, you have different types of funds in the stock market. You have different types of ways that you can package investments, whether it's real estate type trust investments. You have interest in this or interest in that. And people are constantly looking for ways to help their money grow and build their wealth, let your money work for you. And so fraudsters, they take advantage of that. They know that people need to build wealth, and they're offering ways, quote, for people to help generate additional returns.
So what should you do if you know someone who has fallen victim to a social media scam?
We hear this story a lot where we have had people call on behalf of another because sometimes it's hard for a victim to understand and know that they've been victimized in one of these cases. Fear of embarrassment, for some older investors, the fear that their family will discount them, maybe put them in a nursing home and say, oh, mom or dad or, grandma cannot take care of herself because she's losing money to these frauds and we need to help her. So they deter, reporting, certainly, but also it sort of, it's hard for some people to admit that they've become victim of a fraud. But if you know someone, talk with them about it, give them the red flags. There are tons of resources on NASAA's website and the state's website. I know in Alabama, we have resources about frauds. We have information about the different types of frauds and what to look for. But if you need help with someone that you believe is continuing to be a victim of a fraud and they just don't appreciate that, or they can't understand, or it's hard for them to accept, then contact your state securities regulator and get them to help you with the victim. I know we've had to meet with several who have been victimized for a long time, but it's hard to break that pattern sometimes. And sometimes victims just get so immersed in this relationship that it's sad and it's tough to for people to understand that they've just been victimized by a fraudster.
Well, rounding out this year's list of scams are scams designed to play on emotions. I know that you are very passionate about this type of scam, and there are many types of scams that fall into this category, like romance scams, affinity fraud, and pig butchering, also known as relationship scams. Why do you think these scams are so effective?
They're so effective because we are human beings. We're not machines, and we have emotions, thankfully, and we do feel compassion, and we do, all of us, hopefully if you dig deep for some, but most of us have this innate desire to help one another. And so some fraudsters will come at you at that angle, and I need help with this, I need help with that. Will you help me grow my business? Will you invest with me? You trust me, right? And so there's that side of it. And then there's also, especially in some areas, people just don't want to say no. They feel bad. No, I do want to help this person. I want to help that person. But if we don't trust the people that we're dealing with, then society just falls apart. And we do trust people in everyday life. We trust, we go to a physician's office. We trust them with our health care, with our medical information. Our financial advisors, we trust them with our money, our licensed financial advisors. And so it's not just the people that you're dealing with that are licensed, but you trust friends with secrets, and you trust your neighbor to watch your house while you're gone. And so fraudsters just exploit that trusting instinct of us as human beings. And we all wish we could walk around with a facade and like an intestinal fortitude. You can't hurt us, you're not going to do this, you're not going to do that, but we're just that. We're human beings, we're vulnerable, and fraudsters exploit that.
And you mentioned one of the tactics of how this becomes an investment fraud case of like, help me get my business off the ground. Are there other ways that this type of emotional play turns into an investment scam?
Yeah, I mean, in particular, romance scams. I mentioned earlier, the pig butchering. Develop a relationship of trust, and maybe it does turn into a romantic type situation, and it may be that the fraudster says, you know what, I've learned a lot about you. I know that you're looking for ways to earn additional money. Well, I am an expert in this. I've been doing crypto trading for a long time. Now that we're in this relationship, you trust me, right? And so they can help you build wealth, or generate more returns on your investment than you could in a money market account or through the stock market. There are multiple business frauds that are putting out fake businesses to raise money. The investment situations run the gamut. Some of them, especially after 2008, fraudsters really exploited that time when lending was stringent. There were stringent lending requirements after the 2008 financial crisis. So a lot of fraudsters entered the scene and they said, well, you can't get a loan from a bank now, but you can invest with me and I'll give you a upfront loan, and here's the return, and you won't have to, pay these fees on this or that. And so there's just different also situations that have come up, during the course of our history that allows fraudsters to take advantage of it. So you just turn on the news, whatever the situation is, if there's an investment angle, fraudsters will exploit that and use that to their benefit.
How can someone tell if they're being manipulated?
Slow down. It is hard to tell. It's very difficult. Our victims come from all walks of life: doctors, lawyers, accountants, nurses, educators. It's not a lack of intelligence in these frauds. And we do move so quickly, but we have to force ourselves to slow down, pay attention, sleep on something if you have an opportunity presented, wait until the next day and take the time to verify, do your homework. Because in most of these scams, once the money is transferred into the hands of the fraudster, it's gone and you'll never see that money again. So do your homework. You have to be vigilant when it comes to investing and lending money to people. You've worked hard for it and you want to hang on to that. But always, it's the prosecutors can only do so much. We investigate a lot of white collar crime. Like I said, we could go after the offender and punish the individual, but we cannot get that money back.
So what are some of the safeguards that people can do to prevent these frauds from occurring?
So the best way to prevent money from leaving your account and into the hands of fraudsters is to prevent the situations when they come up, the fraudulent scenarios that you might be stepping into. And one of the ways that we encourage people to help combat that is to name a trusted contact to your financial accounts, in particular to your brokerage accounts or investment advisor accounts. So a trusted contact does not give that person access to your accounts, does not give them any information from your accounts. They can't call and say, hey, how much is in that? Or can I transfer money out? Or can I trade in this or that? All it does is it gives your financial professional and law enforcement someone that we can contact if we suspect that your account is being exploited. And, maybe we can't get in touch with you, or we suspect that, and it's just a fact of life. If we live long enough, we will suffer, cognitive impairments. Medical experts will tell you that the financial judgment and reasoning portion of the brain is in the frontal cortex. So that, you could, and I've experienced this firsthand with my grandfather, who died a month short of 99, but he kept up with politics. He read the paper, but he was being scammed. And it was like his brain was saying, hey, this is okay, this is normal. When in reality it's absolutely not. So a trusted contact is someone that we can call and say, hey, is this right? Should this go forward? What's going on with Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so? Like I said, you can bring that to the attention of your financial advisor. You can list your lawyer, you can list your accountant, just somebody that you trust to be able to help you with that or answer those questions. And always have somebody that you can run information by when you're presented with financially related opportunities or investment opportunities.
And we know that trusted contacts are not just for older investors, but why is it so important for older investors to have a trusted contact on their accounts?
As I just mentioned, it's just a fact that as we age, our brains are going to age as well. And I hope if I live long enough that somebody's looking out for me too. And so, I've told my mother, who was almost a victim of 2 scams, that she must have a trusted contact. And, we have, hopefully by the time we retire or in our later years, golden years, we've accumulated enough wealth to be able to support us. You do not want that money going into the hands of a fraudster. So get a trusted contact as you age, just to be sure that even though you think this may be a really good thing, have someone double check. Don't doubt yourself every time, but it never hurts to have someone help you verify that information, because you just don't know. The brain is a funny thing, and it can say, oh yeah, this is a great opportunity. When 10 years ago, your brain would be saying, no, step away. This is a red flag. But it's just a fact of life. We're all humans, and we're not going to live forever. And, hopefully a lot of us are around for a long time, but our brains can't always keep up, and we need some help from time to time. And so I encourage even friends that are not seniors to have someone help them as well, because we see a lot of young investors losing money to fraud as well. So I think everybody should get a good trusted contact in place.
Anything you'd like to add for folks?
I just say, guys, again, slow down. We get so many phone calls each week from people who, wish they hadn't in haste clicked on something or, provided information to someone they thought was a friend or a legitimate business, but slow down, because it's so easy to lose money and it's so incredibly hard to get it back. And so I just caution everybody, we want people to be able to save and invest, but do it wisely, responsibly, and diligently. But contact your state securities regulator if you have questions. That's what we are here for. We work for the public. We're excited to do that, and we love our jobs, and we want to protect our investors within our state so that they can earn wealth and live out their golden years in a very comfortable way.
So, how can someone check the background of a person making an investment offer? Go to NASA.org. That's NASAA.org. Click the Contact Your Regulator tab located in the top right corner, and then simply click the jurisdiction's regulator located on the map to obtain the contact information for your regulator. Being an informed investor means having a plan and understanding each of your investments. Whether you're new to investing or already investing, NASAA and its members provide a variety of online investor education resources for investors of all ages. Visit NASA.org for more information on how to be a wise and safe investor. Again, that's NASA.org, NASAA.org.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And more importantly, Amanda, thank you for the work that you do each day to protect investors. And that's all for today's episode. From Olympia, Washington, I'm Lynn Peters.
And from Montgomery, Alabama, I'm Nick Bonderu. If you have any questions about today's podcast and would like more information about the topics discussed, please email us at realliferegulators@gmail.com. That's realliferegulators, all one word, @gmail.com. If you'd like to hear future episodes, please hit the subscribe button. NASA provides its information as a service to investors. It's neither a legal interpretation nor an indication of a policy position by NASA or any of its members. If you have questions concerning the meaning or application of a particular state or provincial law, rule, or regulation, please consult an attorney that specializes in securities law.